There are many times when you can't use a campfire or even a gas stove. There are chemical heaters on the market designed for the military. A few years ago, a mess tin sized chemical heater came on the market. Recently, I saw and purchased this cooking system from the same people, but in the form of a cup. We'll see how we get on with it in the field. The first thing to do in the whole process is take off the lid and take out the metal inner container. To keep it clean, we'll put it upside down. Next, open up the packet and force the chemical heater into the bottom and tamp it down. Once it's in the bottom, we use the measuring marks on the packet to get 40 millilitres of water. I think this is the case where we put a 40 milliliter mark on the metal cup, which should make measuring out a little bit easier. We now put the metal cup in, put in the water for our coffee and put the top on and leave it for the next 6 or 7 minutes. It's been 7 minutes and the cooker's boiling over. We'll take the top off and see what happens. The water on the inside is barely warm. We'll put the top back on and see what happens in a few minutes. After 10 minutes, the water is still only lukewarm. It's looking like a failure for heating water for making a hot drink. Well, it's been 14 minutes. We'll open it up one more time and see how hot, lukewarm or cold it is. It has got slightly warmer over the past couple of minutes. We'll take the metal cup out and see what's happening inside. It's still bubbling away, it's still hot, so we'll give it another few minutes just to see if it actually does the job. So the final test after 20 minutes. It's lukewarm, not enough to make a cup of coffee, and the chemical reaction down in the bottom is almost complete. So we could say failure. The chemical heater is still hot, but not hot enough to be of any importance. So again, a bit of a failure. Perhaps the test was flawed because the heat packs deteriorate with time, and this pack came with a cooker. We'll try the same experiment with the heat pack from the multi-pack that was bought at the same time. Again, after the specified length of time, the water is still only lukewarm. Seeing as it's still bubbling at the bottom, I'll put the top back on and leave it for a few more minutes to see if it heats up. It is getting warmer, but it's been longer than the nominated time. Nevertheless, I'll give it another 5 minutes or so. It's still bubbling away, so we'll see if it's got any hotter. There seems to be more bubbles on the inside, and it is appreciably warmer. It's warm, if not hot. So we'll give it another few minutes and see how it goes, but we will reach the point of diminishing returns sooner or later. Well, it is getting there. It is rather warm, but it's certainly not hot. It says about 8 minutes. We've got a small cup of water, and after all this time it's still not really hot. The outside of the plastic cup is very warm, but it's not too hot to handle. So again, we'll give it 5 more minutes and see what the score is then. It's lukewarm, but certainly not much better. So again, a bit of a failure. After doing a similar video about flameless heaters, one of the commentators said it was a good idea to add some salt to the system if the packs were old. So I'm going to give this a try and see if it makes any difference. After 7 minutes, the water was still just warm, and some of the salt water had bubbled into the fresh water in the cup. After 15 minutes, the water is hot enough to be used for hot drink, although you can still taste the salt. This would be no good for tea or coffee, but might be pretty good for cuppa soup. The idea with the salt water worked. But if salt water can get into the main compartment, so can the chemicals that leach out of the heating element. However, it may be useful for heating water for washing or shaving. I'm sorry, but I do have reservations carrying this in the field as my only heat source. Thank you to everyone who watches, comments and hopefully subscribes. I really appreciate your support. So get out there, get training. You know it makes sense, it will serve you well.